Hello and welcome to part 2 of converting the Unity Assets Jet into a VR flyable jet using VR Interaction Framework. We're picking up where we left off in the last video. And since then I've made a change to the jet controller. Essentially, open up MyJetController. And what I've done is I've switched out, in the previous video we did a ground check with a raycast in order to make the airplane go kinematic. Well, I've decided to switch that out for a velocity check, which works 100% better. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of this public bull and float that had to do with the raycast. So just get rid of that. And then we're going to come down to here, and we're going to do a start function. Say, and we're going to say plane. Before we get that far, let's add our variables in. We're going to need the rigid body of the plane, call it plane rigid body. And then we need a vector 3 so we can store the plane's velocity. And then we need a private float for the velocity magnitude. So we're going to get the velocity of the plane, and then we're going to get its magnitude and store its speed in a float. So in our start function, we're going to say plane rigid body equals get component rigid body close it out. And then if you scroll down to here where we previously had our raycast check, we're going to change this, and we're going to say if engine power is less than 1 and plane velocity magnitude is less than 1, then our rigid body is kinematic is going to be true. So if you're coming in for a landing and you turn your power off and the plane isn't moving, so the plane has pretty much come to a stop, then it'll go is kinematic. So if you came in for a perfect landing and you just threw off your power, then it wouldn't go kinematic until the plane stopped. And then we're going to switch it here as well. We're going to say and plane velocity magnitude is greater equal to or greater than 1. Oops. Greater than or equal to 1. Okay. Now, actually, I could probably just get rid of that altogether. Actually, I am going to get rid of that altogether. Let's just say if our engine power is less than 1 or our plane velocity magnitude is less than 1 and our plane velocity magnitude is less than 1, it'll be true. And then we can actually just get rid of this right here. Yeah, we can get rid of this altogether. Oops. And let's see. In this raycast, we can get rid of that. Okay. And that should be all the changes. So now effectively we're using velocity to check for kinematic stop instead of rigid body. So, yeah. Clean that up a little bit. All right, so moving on. That's everything we needed to do in our controller script. Let's go back into Unity. Check and make sure everything's still good. Okay, we're good there. Now we've got to get our plane, or actually our aircraft. So go to your, I've already downloaded it, so I'm going to get it from my package manager. Let's see. it is high-res spacecraft creator free sample. I'll leave a link down in the description. And when you import this, in the description it says it's for URP and HDRP. If you come down to the bottom, see how it's got these upgraders? Just uncheck them and then hit import. Okay. Let's see. Go into prefabs. Gets these. As you can see, it didn't do an upgrade, and I'm in a 3D project, so we're actually going to use this one, I believe. So just take it in and drop it on top of your jet. That just puts it in kind of the same spot, and then pull it out. I don't want it to be a child yet. You can see it's kind of under the ground. I think this is the one I used. Maybe not. Hold on. Okay, that's not the one I used, so let's delete that one. I actually used example 2. So take the example 2 and drop it in on the jet, and then pull it out. You can use any of them you want. I just want to stick with what I did, so I'm not missing anything. Okay, so just kind of come down to the side and pull it up to where it's not, because this thing doesn't have wheels, so you just kind of want it up a little bit because it's a spaceship. And then from the side, I'll pull it forward to where the back is about the same as the back. Somewhere in there. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's just going to make it easier to align our effects. That's actually good enough. Okay, so once we got that far, we got to set up our colliders. Now the good thing about this jet is that the colliders are already done for you. I want to check something real quick, and I will be right back. I want to pause it while I check something. Okay, now once you're happy with the placement of the jet, just go ahead and collapse it and then make it a child of the aircraft. We'll come back to setting up the colliders. For right now, you can go into your the aircraft and find the I believe it's here. Yeah, go ahead and to the fuselage, and you can go ahead and get rid of the mesh renderers because we don't need to see it right now, just to get it out of our way. And under wings, same thing. Get rid of all these meshes. Oops, missed one. There is a lot of them. Okay, now the plane's gone. Okay, now let's go ahead and put our joysticks in place. Oops. Let's grab our power joystick. There's easier ways to do this, but for the sake of this, I'm just gonna bring it in here. See. get the placement. Alright, so if you come into the side, kind of judge it, and then come into the top, kind of center it up. Get that handle down a little bit. And then we're going to rotate it to kind of match what we got going on. And just line the stick up. It actually looks pretty good. Okay, now we're going to make the joystick a child of the, let's see, where did I put that on this one? Yeah, it's just a child of the aircraft. Let's make it a child. And then, where did I put the graphics? That's why. Helps when you're looking at the right joystick. Alright, so our throttle controls is going to be a child of our hinge Y on our joystick. Where did I put you, joystick? Where are you? Yep, so take that and pull it down to, open it up. Child of lever GFX. Sorry about this. It's been about a week since I've looked at this, and I'm trying to do it as a tutorial, so bear with me. Okay. Oops. Yeah. Okay. Before I go any further, unpack everything, which takes a second because I think this is separated. Yep. Just unpack it all. This is like a modular pack, so it's different assets. I wonder if I can just undo this. Let's try that. Yeah, there we go. Unpack. Okay. Now, where was I? Okay, cockpit equipment is going to be a child of the, come on, GFFX. Okay. Now, let's grab our steer joystick. Hopefully this one will go quicker than that one. Now, a little tip while I'm doing this, if you guys are doing a different jet model, this process is going to be the same. But if you have like a really long joystick that goes all the way down to the floor, which I have in one of my other jets, this is going to seem kind of silly, but it works. If you have one that's really long, instead of trying to stretch this thing out, just make it bigger. Make it huge, like that. And then run your stick the length that you need, and it'll still work the same way. Your grab points don't get bigger. You're not going to see this joystick anyway. Just FYI. And the same thing we did with the other one. Just try to get it centered up. And then we're going to do the same thing, rotate it. It's kind of line it up. Okay. And then let's go ahead and make this a child of the jet. And open it up. And our graphics joystick. Where's it at? My joystick is going to be a child of the lever GFX. Sorry. Child of the lever GFX. So let's grab this and pull this down to our steer joystick, lever GFX. Now, this is going to make your Y, it did on the other one, go a little wanky. If you want it to go back, just kind of, your scale, just kind of bring it back down. You can get it perfect if you want. Just look at the number before, and then after, I just kind of eyeballed it till it looked right again. Okay, that's good enough. Now, a trick to this is rigid bodies don't play very well with each other when they're children of other rigid bodies. And right now, both of these have a rigid body, and your plane has a rigid body. So what we need to do is we need to make a new layer. Let's add a layer, and we'll call this jet joysticks. And then we're going to add another one called aircraft. Okay. And then click back on your joystick. We're going to make it on this layer and say yes, change children. And then our other joystick, same thing. Jet joysticks, yes, change children. Actually, did that backwards. We did that backwards. Go to your aircraft. Make it aircraft. Yes, change children. Then come down to your joysticks and change it to jet joysticks. Yes, change children. Yes, change children. Then go to edit, physics or project settings, physics, and where joysticks and aircraft come together, just make it to where they don't have any collisions, and that'll make it to where you don't run any issues with them colliding, the rigid bodies fighting with each other. They're virtually ignoring each other now. Okay. Now let's go ahead and set up our entry systems, and we'll come back to these and we'll set up our grabs so that they look right when you grab a hold of the controls. So go ahead and click on your seat. Okay, and then we'll add an empty. And just pull it out and make it a child of the aircraft itself. We're going to rename this to seat destination. Yep, and we're going to make a new, create a new empty. We'll call this one exit destination. Just pull it out. You don't need it to be a child of well, there you go. You don't need it to be a child of the seat destination. They just both need to be children of the aircraft. So take your exit destination. Take your exit destination. And I found that this works best on the back of the aircraft, because when you exit out, you don't want to bounce off of the aircraft. So you can go above it or behind it or below it a decent amount. I just kind of put it here. That way you don't bounce off the wing and collide with the plane on the way out if you're moving. Okay. Then we need a cube. We'll call this enter cube. I think that's what I called it. Yeah, and then pull it out. Oh, come on. Give me another one. Okay, enter cube. And just pull it straight down. And we're going to actually do a dual entry system. We're going to make it to where you can either walk into the trigger or you can teleport into the trigger. And we'll hit that here in a minute. So on your seat destination, just come in and kind of ballpark it to about where you think the player is going to be sitting. This is where you're going to teleport in into position to actually drive this thing. Okay. So here's our basic setup. Now we need to make some scripts. So let's make a new script, C#, and we'll call this jet enter. Open it up. At the top, you'll need using BNG. And just copy and paste this thing. Okay. At the top, you need our player controller. We'll need the vehicle, which is the jet. We'll need our jet destination, which is the seat where we're going to teleport our player. And we need our right-hand model and our left-hand model. We need a quaternion seat rotation and a vector 3 seat position. This is just how we're going to rotate and position our player when we teleport in. We need the player height. This is something that I took from when I did the car script. You can change this. It doesn't really matter. It's just what I named the float. Player height, all this is it's going to set the player height when we go into the jet so that our head isn't through the cockpit. And when you get back out, it'll set it back. We got a bool, players in the cube. So down there on the bottom, we got an on trigger enter, collider other. Other.tag is player. By default, VRIF makes our player controller, our player tagged as player. So when the player enters the cube, it's going to set the bool to true, and then it's going to run the method enter jet. If they walk into it and then they just walk out of it and they don't hit B to get in the jet, or actually, I'm making this to where it's just a trigger enter. You don't even have to click a B button. You just walk into it. So as soon as you come out of it, it's going to set it back to false. And this method, it's enter jet. So once it sets true, it's going to run this method. It's going to ask it if it's true. If it's equal to true, then it's going to set a rotation and position to our jet destination, which is our seat transfer, our seat destination. It's a position and rotation. And then we're going to teleport the player. So our player is then going to teleport to that position and rotation, which will be in the seat. And then we're going to disable all the stuff on on our player that we don't want them doing. So first it's going to set our player height, which is a public, so that you can adjust it either via another script if you need to, or just if you feel like it needs to be higher or lower. It's just a fine adjustment that you can do. It's going to disable the character controller. It's going to disable the teleport. It's going to disable the locomotion manager. It's going to disable smooth locomotion. It's going to disable the player rotation. It's going to disable the player gravity. So basically, you'll be able to look around and you'll be able to move your hands, but you can't like walk out of the plane, and you can't teleport out of the plane. Now, in VRIF, if you make a fist or if you point your finger, it's got an on collision collider that it enables so that you can collide your hand off of stuff. So we disable that so you won't collide off of your own plane. Getting long-winded talking this much. And then it's going to transfer our parent, so it's going to make our character, our player, a child of the jet, so that it moves with the jet. If you didn't do that, you would just follow the jet, and the jet would take off without you. And then we haven't written this script yet, but this is going to set a bool that's called in the jet. It's going to set it to true in our jet exit script. We haven't written the script yet. This can actually go away. And then it's going to set players in the cube to false after we're in the jet, and then it's going to deactivate the cube so that it's not there. Simple enough. Okay. Now go back into Unity. We're going to take this, and we're going to put it on our inner cube. If you ever pull a script onto something like that and it doesn't show any of the public stuff to fill out, just do a comment, something to change it. Well, it's going to make a liar out of me. No, let's go ahead and create our next script. It'll fix itself. Oh, it actually will fix itself. It's rather annoying sometimes. Might be because we don't have this written yet. Alright, create a new script, call it jet exit. Top, you need using BNG. I'll make these scripts available in the download too. Okay. Top, you need our XR rig. I need the player controller. We need the vehicle again, which is the jet. We need our exit destination, which is the empty that we created. We need the inner cube, and we need our tracking space. We need a right-hand model and a left-hand model again. We need a quaternion, initial rotation, initial position. We need our player height exit. So this is where we're going to set our player height back to when we get out of the jet. And we're going to set we have our bool in the jet, which is what was in the other script. And then we need our rigid body. So we can do a velocity check. And the reason we're going to do a velocity check is, you'll see, this will make sense shortly, but I'm going to make a teleport destination that glows. And we're going to check the velocity to tell us if it's enabled or not. So if the jet's moving faster than 5, then it won't be visible. That way, if you jump out of the jet midair, you don't see your entry point is floating around midair. So we need a rigid body for the jet, vector 3 to store its velocity, and we need the float speed, where we're going to store its magnitude, and then we're going to set the speed to a float, and we're going to say if it's greater than whatever we say here, then you just won't be able to see your entry destination, or your entry point rather. So on your start, it's going to get initial rotation of our tracking space and initial position of our tracking space. And we do this so that we can store it on start so we know what it was before we got in the plane. That way, if your plane's in a spin and you jump out, it'll reset your tracking space and put you upright again. If you don't do this and you teleport back, you'll land on your head sometimes, or you'll be sideways or whatnot, but this is how you fix that. So, yep, up here in the update function, once we're in the jet, once we exit, so basically if we are less than -75 float, so below 0, and in the jet is true, it's going to throw you out of the plane. So it's checking our position, it'll throw you out of the plane. So if you go out of bounds, it'll throw you out of the plane. Or if you're in the jet and you hit the B button. So we're using a bool to tell us if we're in the jet or not. This is set from our jet enter script right here. It's going to set the true when we go in the jet. And if it's true and you hit your B button, we're going to exit out of the jet. And it's going to teleport us to our exit destination, which is the empty that we made. And then it's going to enable the gravity again, so we start falling again. And it's going to switch our parent back to the XR rig from the plane, or the spacecraft in this case. It's going to re-enable the character controller. It's going to re-enable the BNG controller, or not re-enable the BNG controller, but it's going to reset our player height to our player height exit, which is whatever you set it to. So when you get out of the plane, it'll make you tall again. It's going to re-enable the player teleport, the locomotion manager, the smooth locomotion, and the player rotation. And then it's going to re-enable our hand colliders so we can punch things again. And it's going to reset our tracking space to whatever it was before we got it in the plane to bring you upright again. And that's going to go away. And then it's going to set in the jet, which is the bool, back to false. And then outside of that, this is our velocity check. Velocity is going to equal the jet rigid body dot velocity, so the velocity of the jet's rigid body. And the speed is going to be the velocity dot magnitude, which is just how fast it's moving, the velocity is moving. And we're going to say if the speed is less than whatever we set. Right now we have it set to 5. You'll be able to set it in the inspector. Then the inner cube, we're going to set it active true. So the inner cube will be active again. And then else the inner cube will be set active false. So if you jump out of the plane midair and the plane's flying through the air, it's not going to show your exit destination. And that'll make sense once we add the teleport to it. Okay, go back into Unity. Okay, so now let's go back up to our cube. Yep, see everything appeared. Let's go to our XR rig. It wants our player controller. It wants the jet. It wants our jet destination. It's our seat destination. It wants our right hand model. And our left hand model. And this is going to be the actual model that you select to use. You could change this to be all of them, but honestly, if you're doing a full game, you've probably only got one set of hands that you're going to be using. I put that in the wrong one. But if you click on it, you'll see that that's where our hand collision script is at. This is what we're going to enable and disable. Okay, and then I need my right hand model. Okay, now take our jet exit and we're going to put that on our seat destination. Okay, and it wants the XR rig. It wants the player controller. It wants the jet. And it wants the exit destination. It wants the inner cube. It wants our tracking space, which is right here. It wants our right hand model, our left hand model again. Right hand model and our left hand model. And here's where you can set your player height on exit. This is what it is by default with the VRIF. And this is just a bool. Sit there to make sure that you can debug and see if it's doing what it's supposed to do. And it needs our jet rigid body. So we can do our velocity check, which is on aircraft jet. And this is the speed at which our cube will become active again. So I've got it set to 5. You can go up or down, whatever you're using for your for your aircraft. Okay. So now click on your cube, come down to box collider and make it a trigger. Now we've got to set up our colliders. So all of these colliders for the aircraft, we don't need them. So we're just gonna get rid of them. Oops. Now if you come down to our, collapse some of this stuff to make it easier to see. Down to our colliders here. Let's see, which one is this? It's our nose collider. One of these. This is where I need to check something. I'll be right back. Okay, so if you come down to your example 2 gray, and you come down under cockpit 3, and then all the way down here, this collider is your nose collider. Let's go ahead and edit that and bring it forward. That way we don't teleport our player into a collider. The collider directly under it, we're going to disable it altogether. It is in this model, this one is for some reason causing the plane to nosedive, and I haven't quite figured out why. You don't really need this collider at all, so just disable it. So just, yeah, disable it. So the cool thing about the colliders on this plane is they're done for you. You're not going to have to come back and do colliders, which is great. So if you click on the example, you can see they did a really great job of doing the colliders on this aircraft. So that works out in our favor if you are using this model. Anyway, from here we should be able to fly the plane, but I want to do a couple of more things. If you come over and you do let's grab where are my items? I can pull this in from the prefabs as well, but just go ahead and enable the items if you don't have them enabled. Grab our teleport destination right here and just duplicate it and then drag it up. Here's a little trick in VRIF if you want to be able to teleport into a trigger. So let's just make this a child of the well, I don't want it to be a child yet because we need to move it. Well, it doesn't matter. But anyway, we're going to pull this duplicate over here and put it in the middle of our cube. Like so. You can line this up directly centered if you wanted to. So now you'll have a cool looking little, let's go ahead and make that a child of the cube. You have a cool looking little inner circle. What the heck is my inner cube? Just make it a child of the inner cube. Now click on your cube and you can get rid of the mesh, and that'll be all that you can see. Okay, from here we should be able to fly the plane. So let's go ahead and set up our hands. So if you come into your work with me here. Cockpit, where are you? There it is. Okay. So now, let me find them over here. Make sure I'm not giving you the wrong ones. Let's go with our jet joystick. If you come down to your grab points on your steer stick, grab points. Okay, we need to make this to where you're only using 2 grab positions, either the left or the right hand. And we don't need the top and the reverse side, that way your hand doesn't go backwards. So we're going to disable this one. And we're going to disable this one. Oh, this one. Left hand. We only need the right hand reversed and your left hand reversed. So just go ahead and disable those. And then if you go up to jet joystick, I believe it is. Where's it at? Where is that at? Where's the grabbable? There it is. Hinge Y. Come down the grabbable and hit grab points. And we need to get rid of everything except for right hand and left hand reversed. So we need to get rid of this. We're just going to say, I think there's an easier way to do that. We're going to get rid of this. And we need right hand reversed. We're going to get rid of this. We can get rid of top reversed. Yep, and get rid of left hand. We need to keep left hand reversed. We're going to get rid of the top and the left hand top reversed. That way you can only, when you grab it, you know, your hand will be in the right spot on the stick. Okay, so now let's go to our other one, our jet power joystick, and come down to your grab points. And we only need our right hand top reversed and our left hand top reversed. So we need to get rid of these. So just deactivate them. Left hand top reverse, so we can get rid of these, leaving us with the left and right top reversed. Same thing, go to hinge Y, come down to your grabbable, and then we got to get everything except for our right and left top reversed. Right hand, and then we need, so we have our right hand top reversed and our left hand top reversed. That way your hand will only be in the right spot, facing the right direction when you grab this thing. Now, let's go ahead and get in the plane, and then we'll align our hand positions and our seat position real quick. And jump into VR. All right. Okay, so now we should be able to just walk into it. Hit my B button, I exit out to the back, and it should be able to teleport into it now. So that's how you can teleport into the middle of a trigger. Just make it a valid teleport within the trigger destination. Okay, so you can see we're a little bit high. So click over on scene, and then we can come down to our grab points. Oh, wrong one. Make sure you got the right one. Right hand. I want to start with my left hand because that's what I grabbed it with. Just pull it down. And maybe back a little bit. And then I found the hand pose that works best for this is your grip shaft. So I don't know if that's going to change until I reset, but yep, it did. So you can see it's starting to look a little bit better. So go ahead and copy component, hit play, then hit paste component values. Now I'm going to jump back into VR and check it real quick. And you can spend more time moving this. Oops. Okay. Oh, it didn't keep my hand pose. We'll come back to that. We'll switch that before we come back into VR. Let's look at our other grab point. Looks like it needs to come back and up. So let's grab our right hand top reverse. Go into our scene. Back and up a little bit. Back into the game so you guys can see if I'm looking at it. actually doesn't look too bad. And then you'll do the same for the left. You get the idea. I'm not going to go through all that. That's just going to make the tutorial go longer. So now go into your hand pose. And if you could prefer a different one, this is just your hard setting, what the default is. So we're going to just change them both to grip shaft. Okay, so now those are lined up. So now we can go in and we can get rid of our graphics on our joystick so we can't see them. Sorry, I want to get my headset off. Let's see. Graphics, where are you? Okay, left hand graphics. Just get rid of the meshes so that you can't won't see them. And there should be a base. Yep. There we go. And then come to your other one. Just get rid of the mesh. Get rid of the mesh. And then there should be a base. Get rid of the mesh. Okay, so now where we're left is with our controls. And this model actually has separated controls. I just made them both children so the whole thing moves at one time. Because I've only got one joystick. I guess if you had a reason to have two joysticks there, you could technically do that. This also has separated switches and stuff, which you could play with if you're using this model, which I thought was really cool. Anyway. Now we should be able to, well, before we test the jet out, I already know it's going to work, but if you go to your aircraft jet at the top, you can see that there's a whole lot of stuff that you can play with on this. Your max engine power, this is what we're setting by script, so don't worry about that. It's got lift. I'm not entirely sure what all of these do yet. I haven't really played with them too much. But you're going to have to play with your roll and pitch and yaw. It's because out of the box it's really touchy in VR. I have it set to, I have roll effects set to 0.25. Pitch effect is 0.5. And I left my yaw effect alone. And then it's got like auto turn and auto roll and auto pitch, and then how fast your air brakes work, all that stuff that you can really play around with. But this makes it less touchy, so these are going to be your main things on trying to get this thing to fly the way you want it to. So let's jump in VR and test it out, and then I'll show you how to do a reset on it so that you can play around with that. If you're doing some testing, you'll be able to just reset the jet. Okay. You can see our colliders still work, which is great. I love the fact that this thing is already got colliders. I'll probably end up using this in a prototype game. But now we can teleport into our plane. You can see it puts me in the back wherever wherever you put your destination at, and I can walk into it and it'll just bring you into the plane. Okay, let's test it out. I went below. Do want to test that out one more time. There's one thing different that I did in the setup for this, and we may end up doing it anyway. I just want to make sure that this thing is leveling out correctly. Yep, it is. Oh, helps if I go up. All right. Okay, now for a reset button so that you can keep resetting this thing. Let's just come over back here to this table. Well, we'll make a new table just because you're probably working in a new project. Go into your assets, go into B&G framework, go into your prefabs, find a desk, pull it up, drag that up, and then we need a button. This works. Pull this up. Okay. So grab your center button, and then we're going to add let's go back to assets, and we're going to make a new script. Let's see. Pause for a second. Okay, we're going to make a new script. We're going to call this Jet. Let's call it Jet Resetter. At the top, you're going to need using B&G and then using Unity standard assets.utility. The Jet comes with a resetter script that you can call, which we have to use this namespace in order to access that script. And we're going to get the transform of our joystick X, which is our power, because we're going to reset it with a button press. And this is our, what was this? This is what I get for going a week without making a tutorial. Let's see. Oh, this is just our rotation. So we're getting the transform. Yep. And then assigning the rotation on start. Okay, so we're getting what it was before we got in the Jet and changed it. And then when we hit the reset, it's going to, when we run this method, it's going to reset the joystick to 0. And it's going to start a creatine to reset the actual Jet. And it's going to wait for seconds, 1 second delay. And then it's going to run the object resetter script that's on the Jet. It has a built-in delayed reset float that you can pass. And then it's going to reset the rotation again. What I was running into is it's a little bit buggy running it with a button. So I found that running it twice, sometimes you would get the Jet would come back, but the power wouldn't be off. It still does it every once in a while. I'm not going to go into much further because I'm just using this for debugging of the Jet to reset it to make sure that it flies right. You're going to write your own resetting stuff to whatever your game needs anyway, but this will get the job done. And come back over here. And let's go to our button. We take our Jet resetter. We're going to put that on our aircraft. And then on our button, make sure that showed up on the aircraft. Right? Is that where I put it? Yep. And then come down to your button. Come down to your enter button. And come down to on button down. And we need our aircraft Jet, which is where we put it. And then we're going to come down to our Jet resetter. And we're going to run what the heck? Hold on a second. Okay, it wasn't loading. I had to go into the script and do a quick little edit to get it to reload the script. So I commented edit, and then so I can get rid of that now to get that to populate so that I could actually see it. So come back in here, click on your enter button, come down to where we just added the aircraft jet, which is where we put that script. Come down to jet resetter, and then we're going to go reset jet controls. And this should reset our jet. If you go up to your aircraft jet, you can see it has a, where's it at? Object resetter in this script. And if you go into this script, you can see that it's got functions that you can pull to reset the aircraft to its original start point. So you can play around with this to kind of write in your own code in your own game to figure out how you want to reset the jet. But that's where this is at. Okay, so now file, save. Let's go ahead and set up our particles since I haven't done that yet. That's the one thing I was forgetting to do. All right, so just kind of put these where you think they'll look cool. So if you remember, we kept our jet effects. Let me find them. Colliders, fuselage. There they are, particles. Open this up. You got afterburner left, afterburner right, and then you've got a trail system. So let's grab our afterburner left, which is kind of an orange thing. And I think what I actually did is I duplicated these to give me 4, because if you see, you got 2 there and you got 2 there. So let's take this one. Let's take this one. And you can just play with the positioning on this till it looks right. Pull it out. That, yeah. That looks pretty good. And then grab my left. Yeah. Right, left. And this one. Left, I put them down here on these. Oops, too far. Just kind of centered them in. Like I said, your alignment can be better than mine. Okay, and then come to the right. You know, the only time you're going to see this is when you jump out of it, but you know, that's enough to kind of want to play around with it so it looks cool. All right, and then vapor trail system, there's only one, and I just kind of put it up in the middle somewhere. And then for our trails, I just kind of put these out at the wings, ballparked. This is the vapor trails that it leaves in the air. You know, you can get it more perfect, or however you want to put it, on the wings or whatever. Okay, so let's jump into VR and see what it looks like. That should be all she wrote. Okay, I forgot to assign my X on my aircraft joystick. So come down to your power joystick, and then we need our hinge X. And on your joyset resetter, which is on your aircraft, we need this, the transform. Okay, let's jump into VR now and see what happens. All right, let's jump in and out of it a couple times, test everything, make sure it's working. So we can walk into the teleport. It puts us out in the back. We can teleport into it. We got power. We can jump out. There's our effects. Looks pretty good. Let's come over to our reset button that we just made and see if we can get it to come back. There it is. There's our teleport is now visible again. Okay, let's fly it. And like I said, you'll have to play with the player controller to get it to fly the way you want it to fly. Air brakes work. I'm holding in my A button to get the power to go down to see if we can get it to land. Obviously, you'd want a runway or something instead of just trying to nonchalantly land it on a square like this. Good times. Jumped out of the plane, back at my reset point. hit the microphone. Jet resets. That's another bug with that resetter. You'll have to, I haven't gotten into really programming that yet with this jet controller, but like I said, you're going to program your own resetting to accommodate whatever game you're using anyway. And it's back, and there it is. And there you go. That's how you turn the Unity Assets jet into a flyable spacecraft or aircraft. Hope you found this informative, and thanks for joining.